Well, hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Valiantys' Jira for All Teams webinar. Thank you so much for joining. The focus of this webinar is going to be on real-life use cases of how non-IT teams have used Jira and other Atlassian products to work in better ways. My name is Jason Kidner. I'm going to be your tour guide for the next hour. And I am an engagement director here at Valiantys. I'm also an Atlassian certified professional. So I've been working on delivering Atlassian solutions for many different clients over the past 5 years. And I'm really looking forward to walk you through some of these real life use cases that we've done with some of our clients. I'm also happy to be joined by my colleague, Kristen, who is going to be monitoring the Q&A area of this Zoom call. And she's also going to be posting some helpful links into the chat throughout this webinar. So stay tuned, look for the chat for different important links that she has to share. All right, so our agenda today, it's pretty basic. So I'm going to have a few introductory thoughts. Then most of the webinar is going to be looking at those real life examples. We're going to cover 5 real life examples, and then we'll have some time at the end for questions. So if you do have questions that come up, please put them into the Q&A area of this Zoom call, and I will look at that at the very end, and I'll do my best to answer them. So very straightforward here. So we're going to jump into just some introductory thoughts. And again, while this webinar is focused on using Jira for all sorts of types of teams, these real life use cases are going to be really focused on helping your team work in a better way, no matter what type of team you're on. So what are some of the core ingredients for working in a better way? So there are things like making work visible, having clear next steps in your processes, making your work collaborative, using flexible tools that change as quickly as your environment changes, and then shifting your mindsets, like from you and your teams, from doing more work in less time to generating more value with less work. Okay, so a lot of this is going to be about how can things be more valuable for you, your team, your customers, and really trying to help things just work ultimately in a better way. And as you can see from this little graphic or this little animation, we're obviously focusing on Jira, and we're going to be focusing on other Atlassian tools in our demos. And before I jump into some of those Atlassian products and tools we're going to look at, I just wanted to say a few words about people, processes, and tools, because these are the main things, right, that are key to doing whatever work you and your organization is doing. So I show them in this order because, again, people are foundational, right? They're doing the work. You're all working together. They're your most important piece of this. And then this is followed by processes. So you have processes, they might be evolving, changing, but ultimately you're trying to develop processes that focus on value and good collaboration with your team and other teams. And then finally, we have the tools, okay? And ideally, these are tools that are flexible and tools that support your people and your processes. But what we find out over and over again as we're working with different organizations is that they want the Atlassian tools, and those Atlassian tools are super helpful, but they can't solve your people and your process problems. Okay, so just wanted to call that out. They're awesome and wonderful, but they're just one part of the overall picture of how you're going to work in better ways. So let's now turn our attention to some of those Atlassian tools that we're going to talk about. And so this is what's, you can see here, this is the Atlassian portfolio. It's obviously focused on the Atlassian Cloud platform and the Atlassian Cloud products. You might also hear the term, the Atlassian system of work. That they're really talking about a lot now, to really just highlight how all of their products in the cloud work together to help achieve what your company wants to achieve. So we're not going to be covering all of these products. This isn't meant to be a really quick whirlwind tour through all the Atlassian products, but our 5 real life examples are going to hit on some of these that I want to just touch on here. So the main one we're going to look at is here in this all teams area. It's Jira. And you might have heard in the past Jira Software or Jira Work Management. Well, Atlassian has now brought those two products together under what is just called Jira. And there's different types of projects that I'm going to highlight here today. But again, you're just ultimately licensing Jira. So we're going to definitely look at Jira a lot. We're also going to look at Confluence. Many companies that have Jira also have Confluence. Confluence is the wiki-style documentation tool that has a lot of really tight integrations with Jira and Jira also with Confluence. So definitely going to look at some things in Confluence. Then we're also going to look at Jira Service Management as one of our real life examples. And again, it's not just for IT teams. Jira Service Management can be used by any type of team. And you might even hear the term Enterprise Service Management, ESM, out there as just to highlight that any team is essentially a service team, handling different requests from different other teams. So we're going to talk about Jira Service Management. We'll also touch on what's called the Atlassian Home as well. Just going to do a little teaser there, and we'll touch on Trello as well. There's a lot of other products here. Obviously, we do have a lot of other webinars that you probably have seen on the Valiantys website, and that cover some of these other products like Jira Line and Rovo, things like that. So I won't talk anymore, but what I will highlight here is that these Atlassian tools are very ubiquitous. They're often, they're used in so many different types of companies around the world. And most likely, if you're a non-IT team and you're kind of curious about Atlassian, using Atlassian for your teams, it's likely that there are Atlassian products like Jira or Confluence already being used within your company. And then these are very inexpensive tools. They're very easy to get started with, very easy to customize and set up for your teams. And again, likely they're already being used. But if they're not, you can reach out to us. You can even sign up very easily through the Atlassian products and set up a trial, put in credit card information. So they're really easy to get up and running with. So, and you don't, obviously, they're not just one big thing that you have to do different modules. These are different products. So if you don't want this one sort of product, you don't need to use it. You can pick and choose which ones you want to use, but they all integrate really tightly together. Okay. So now let's turn our attention to these 5 practical examples. So they are task management, project management, hiring and onboarding, service desks, and finally, centralized knowledge. So for each of these, we're going to walk through you're going to see the pattern forming here. So let's jump in to our first example, task management. So who is maybe needing task management or needing help with task management? Well, that's everyone. Every type of team, every type of organization, right? Whatever you're doing, you're ultimately doing some type of work. Okay, maybe wouldn't necessarily call it a task, but you're doing some sort of work to ultimately, provide or deliver what your other teams need or what your customers need. So, what are the problems we see over and over again? Well, teams are wondering, what do we have to do? And is everything really up to date? Can I trust that this is the latest and greatest information? And then who is taking care of that? Which person is actually supposed to be doing that piece of work? Okay, so the solution that we do over and over again with clients is centralized task management that allows for multiple views. And ultimately, we often see a lot of companies who start off with Jira. They might be coming from another tool, but a lot of times those business teams or those non-IT teams are working in spreadsheets or some sort of spreadsheets or sheets somewhere, and we're bringing them in to Jira, and I'm going to show you all the different cool UIs and different features that go above and beyond just spreadsheets. So here we're going to focus on, again, the tool Jira. And in this case, I'm going to show you a business project, and we'll get into software projects as well. So for all of these demos, then I'm going to jump into a cloud instance. This is our client demo site. This is on the cloud. Again, this webinar is really focused on the Atlassian Cloud. We're not going to be talking about data center or on-prem Atlassian products. So, but happy to talk about those and answer questions about those as well, if you have questions about that. So here is, again, our client demo site. This is Jira Cloud. You can see up here at the top, Jira. And these are different projects. And projects are really just containers of work items, okay? And there's a couple different types of projects. So the first one I'm going to talk about for this example is what's called a company managed business project, okay? So I'm going to jump into this accounting project. And again, we're focused on the real life example of task management, okay? And trying to help answer some of those questions I had earlier. So with this, you get an out-of-the-box summary that gives things like the status overview of your work items. What statuses are they in? What activities been taking place within this project? What's the priority breakdown on the various issues in this project? There's a priority field on Jira work items. And then there's types of work. There's different work items or issue types, they're called in Jira. There's team workload. How much are various people on your team being assigned to different work items? So this is an out-of-the-box summary. And then there's what's called a board. So boards are very prevalent and very, very helpful within Jira. And so a board is meant to basically have columns that are based on a workflow status, or like what's the status of the work. Like imagine you have a life cycle of work, or what's called a workflow in Jira. So this board is meant to show where your work items are as cards on this board and what status are they in. And so you can quickly see how many you have in feedback, how many you have in progress, how many are done. And this board, it also allows you to quickly click on one of the work items, and you can see a view screen and see a lot of information about that work item. It also allows you to move and make some updates. So you can move these work items from one status to the next, move them along. Ultimately, you're trying to get them to be completed or done. So this is one view that you get with a business project. I'll also show you what they look like in software projects, but these are very helpful. You also get a list view in a business project. This list view is also actually coming into software projects as well. So there's a lot more overlap between business and software projects now in Jira. So this list view looks a lot like a spreadsheet because it's a grid that you can sort and filter on and do inline editing in. But it's got some really great features where you can adjust the columns here. You can do your filtering, do your grouping. You can also see here that Jira has an out-of-the-box hierarchy level of their work items. So you have like a parent-to-child relationship with work items. And you can see the out-of-the-box 3-level hierarchy here, where you have Jira epics at the top, and then the children of epics, in this case, are tasks. That's that check mark icon. And then you have what are called subtasks under those tasks. So this, again, is kind of a standard 3-level hierarchy. And with other, there's a couple of different tiers of Jira, but with Jira Premium and above, you get even like an unlimited hierarchy where you can go up and above even Jira epics. But you can see parent-child relationships here in this grid, in this list view. You also get a calendar with this that, again, if you put in those start and end dates on each of the work items, then you can reflect those on this calendar. And you can see which ones are overdue and which ones are closed. And so that could be really helpful. And again, you can pick and choose which ones you want to use and which ones you don't, which of these visualizations. There's also a timeline view. This is what you could think of as like a Gantt chart or like a very simplistic roadmap view. And again, so it bases these timelines off of the start and end dates that you put on the work items. And you can see that out of the box hierarchy as well. And you can see, so you can see the roll up of work to hire larger buckets of work. So you have timelines. There's a number of other tabs here. I'm not gonna, this isn't meant to be a full tour of everything in Jira, but hopefully you can see that with a Jira project like this, you can quickly see what is your team working on? Where is it at in its workflow? Is everything up to date? Well, yes, everything's up to date because as soon as one user updates this, the rest of the users are going to see in real time the updates made. So whatever's out here is the latest and greatest information. And then you can assign work. You can see the different user icons there, but every work item has an assignee field that I've pretty much seen. I haven't seen any company not use this because you obviously want to assign and show who is responsible for a given work item. So a lot of cool things. A lot of this, again, is also in software projects. We'll touch into software projects in the next real life example. Okay, so if you have any questions about this, again, put them in the Q&A chat, and I'll get to talking more about that later on if you do have questions. All right, let's go back to our examples here. So that was task management. The next one, going up, maybe we could say going up a little bit of a level from task management, is project management. Okay, so who cares about project management? Well, a lot of different types of teams. Obviously, the PMO teams in your organization would, but every team is probably being assigned different sort of projects, or they might not be called projects. Maybe they're called features, or they're called some sort of other work item. But you have HR teams, marketing teams, anyone who manages projects or larger bodies of work that takes, maybe months to achieve. So the problems that we see with many of our customers is that when they're managing projects or multiple projects, it's often difficult to keep track of all that work when many teams are collaborating to deliver those projects. And there might be many different handoffs, even with a single team. So one user on the team might be handing stuff off to another role on the team. So alignment becomes a really big problem. And so we see misalignment, and that often comes up as a pain point. There's also delayed handoffs, who's doing what? Have you handed it off correctly? We see manual status reports, like how much time is being spent like over and over again doing manual status reports when a lot of the information that you need is already out there. People are already entering it in. And how can you access it in real time, asynchronously? So you don't have to have status meetings constantly. So we see that. We also just see missing information and information that's just hard to be visualized because potentially it's being stored in some Excel spreadsheet, maybe somewhere out in the cloud, maybe on somebody's desktop or in PowerPoint. That's really hard to find and really hard to share and even to collaborate in. So again, problems with collaboration and visibility show up over and over again. So what's the solution? Well, at a high level, again, it's making work more visible. It's automating reporting. It's just giving visualizations to various types of stakeholders, like very easily, very quickly. So you're not spending your time all day in status meetings. Okay. So the tools that I'm going to highlight here are Jira. In this case, I'm going to show a Jira software project. And we're also going to go into Confluence for the first time and show some really cool things in Confluence and how it integrates with Jira. So let's go back into our demo site. For this one, I'm going to go to a different project. I'm going to go to a software project called the Marketing Project Management. So imagine that this is for a marketing team. Looks like Atlassian's trying to market some of their products already here. So this is the marketing team's project. And so they're highlighting their projects that they're working on here as what are called Jira Epics. You can see that little lightning bolt icon. And so this is a software project. Again, it looks a little different than a business project. The menu is more on the left-hand side. A lot of the same options are here. And so this is what's called a Kanban board. You can create different boards in a software project, like a Scrum board or a Kanban board. So again, this board is very similar to the business project, where you have different columns that represent the statuses, the workflow status that these are in. So I can see in this particular project, Project Alpha, It's represented here by this by this particular work item, and it's in progress. I can see Epsilon is in to do, and there's a couple of projects in the funnel state, and looks like one project's been completed. So for these, if we represent the projects that you're working on as a higher level issue type or work item like an epic, then you can customize the screen, all the fields that show up on a particular epic screen here in this project. And you can put in lots of different types of fields, like large text fields here, business objectives, scope, assumptions. This is just kind of an idea of maybe something we've done for one client. You can put in like, who are your sponsors? Who are your stakeholders? There's different types of user fields. There's date fields, number fields, a lot of different sorts of fields. I'll touch on this goal field shortly. This gets into a little different product within Atlassian, but that you're going to start to see more and more here in the cloud. But the idea here again is that this epic represents a larger body of work called, in this case, a project that the marketing team's working on. And it has its own workflow. And so this information can be filled out and can be tracked by the team over here in Jira. But this marketing team also realizes that, you know what, our stakeholders are going to want to see things packaged in a little different way. We don't want to necessarily use this board for some of our meetings or for people to see the latest status. So what we've done for some clients is we've set up a Confluence site, or in this case, it's called a space. Confluence is organized by spaces, which are similar to those projects over in Jira. They're really meant to be like a container for lots of pages that have a particular, that all fit together for some department or some team. In this case, we're in a space called the marketing space. So the marketing team has their project in Jira, and then they have their space over in Confluence. And here they have a project dashboard, which I'll talk about shortly. But that project, that alpha that I just looked at in Jira, also has a page here in Confluence that this team has created. And they've created a template that they're going to use over and over again for other projects that come through their pipeline. And so this page has a number of things I want to talk about. So first off, there's a calendar, a team calendar for the marketing team that shows different events, time off, different things that they're working on. And then in the status area here, we have the work item from Jira brought into Confluence, and you can see this integration where any updates made on that particular, in this case, Jira Epic, will show over here in this particular part of the page. And if we scroll down further, there's a table that has some status updates that are just made in Confluence. So these little lozenges, status lozenges, are just set up in Confluence in this table. But then down here, we have project details, where this information here is not typed into Confluence, it's pulling these fields from Jira. So again, that tight integration of your latest up-to-date information on that project that's in that epic in Jira is coming over here into this page to visualize. Okay, so any updates in Jira are reflected over here in Confluence. As I scroll down, we have other things that are coming from Jira, like the current work that's being done. Underneath this epic, there's various tasks that are children of this epic, and those are coming over here in a little grid for current work. We also have a grid here for completed work. There's a pie chart, again, that's highlighting some of that work. This is all coming over from Jira, okay? Same with milestones. And then other details. These are basically other fields coming from that Jira epic. And this page has been set up to pull in unique fields from Jira. And this can be updated, but any updates in Jira will be reflected real time over here in Confluence. And you can also attach files to a Confluence page, lots of other what are called macros that you can use. And we have other webinars that really dig into Confluence more. So, but the idea here ultimately is that the stakeholders, or the leader of the marketing team, other people who are focused in on what's marketing up to, well, they can actually come over here to this dashboard and see all the projects that are being worked on, what are their statuses here, and then what are some of the details, again, coming over from Jira. So one place to come to. So that's Jira and Confluence to be used for projects. I also want to highlight a newer product that Atlassian's working on. It's called Atlas, though it's this functionality of Atlas is starting to come in more and more to what is called the Atlassian home. And so what you see out here is these projects here are what are called Atlassian projects. These are different from Jira projects. But the idea here in this idea of helping with project management is that these projects could literally represent what I just talked about for the marketing team. So the marketing team could set up a project out here. In this case, I've created one called the Project Alpha. And so within one of these projects, this potentially could be used maybe in lieu of Confluence. So Confluence is certainly used by lots of companies, but now Atlassian's creating this new Atlas or this new Atlassian home area to help with projects and goals. So this is where you could put updates. What are we working on? People can follow this project, get updates on it real time. And these projects can be set up to be linked to actual work items over in Jira. So this project is set up to be for that Jira epic that I showed earlier. And you can see here, there's goals within Atlas or Atlassian Home that you can create, and you can link goals to these projects. Like, what are the goals you're trying to achieve as a marketing team, or that are being delivered through this particular project? So this is all coming out. It's being developed, and I think we're going to see more and more of this from Atlassian in the future. But it's something to consider for project management. So, all right. That was our real life example of project management. All right, so next we're going to just take a quick commercial break. So to just say a little bit more about Valiantys. So we are a Platinum Atlassian solution partner. So we're 100% dedicated to the Atlassian ecosystem. We are experts at anything Atlassian, but we also, as we'll talk about in other ways here, we have a full stack development center. So we can certainly help you integrate your Atlassian products with other products you have out there that you're doing work with. We're we've been an Atlassian Partner of the Year 13 times. We work with 65 of the global Fortune 500 companies. We are Atlassian's first global partner. So we're all over the world, in Europe and APAC, obviously in North America here. So we are global, and we do many different things. So how can we help you? Well, certainly consulting and IT consulting with Atlassian solutions. That's our real key focus area. We also do licensing, so we can help you with your licensing for any of the Atlassian products. We also have, again, an amazing engineering team, custom developers that can do integration and development. So anything that involves like custom front ends or just unlocking, again, deeper insights with your Atlassian suite, with AI, I mean, you name it, we can do. We have just some amazing developers that can do about anything. We also have managed services. Again, if you need help hosting anything with your Atlassian ecosystem, or you just need some little help on the side, we obviously have that. And then training. So these webinars are part of our just overall portfolio of training, but we also have a lot of other training, which I'll talk about at the end, various boot camps that can be, there's public options, also private options. So we would love to talk with you more about training as well. Okay, let's move on to our third real life example. This is hiring and onboarding. So while this might be like, so I guess who's this for then? So you might first of all think, yes, HR teams. Well, yes, that makes sense. So HR teams certainly are helping with hiring and onboarding, but it's really any type of team who hires and onboards. So even here within Valiantys, we have a whole enablement workflow, and we help people to get onboarded, to be enabled. to be great consultants. And so something similar that I'm going to show you applies to, like, we're using it in-house. So any team can really kind of use this to help with this. So what are the problems we've seen? And these problems, I'm going to just say, are related to a specific customer we had, which was a large insurance company. And so they had unique needs and processes that had to change over time. But hopefully what you're seeing with this example will relate somehow, some way to your onboarding pain points. So, but this insurance company was hiring thousands of people each year to be agents, and different, like, tier 1 agents, tier 2 agents. And so they had a very full pipeline, and they had to coordinate a lot of tasks through that pipeline. So as people came on board and were hired and had to be trained and had to be certified, there was just all sorts of steps along the way. So so the teams needed a unique process that scaled. They needed to have like the ability to customize that process as it changed over time. And then a lot of their pain points was just like, there's an unclear step, like who's supposed to do what when some user goes from one part of the process to another. And this company was stuck in spreadsheets, again, making visibility and collaboration difficult. And they also, as the process went along, they needed a lot of syncing with or integration with external systems. And they also had to meet insurance industry compliance. So there was a lot going on for them, a lot of pain points they had, and they just needed something a solution a lot more robust than spreadsheets. So the solution for them that I'll show you again at a high level, it involved custom workflows, like really a workflow tailored to their particular needs for each of their onboarding roles. And then they needed data validation. They needed automated downstream task creation. Again, so automation involved here. They needed integration with some other outside of Atlassian systems. And then they just needed guardrails. They needed to make sure that people were not moving along unless certain boxes were ticked. Okay, so, and they ultimately, too, they needed reporting, and they needed some visualization of where everybody was at a given moment in time. So the tools involved here are Jira. I'm going to show Jira. You could also use Jira Service Management potentially as an intake and as a way for the onboarding to come in. But I'm going to show you Jira and some things we did with this one particular client. So for this, I'm going to go to another software project called the Onboarding Project. All right, so here we have a couple different boards. We have a tier 1 onboarding board, and we also have a tier 2 onboarding board. So the tier 1 board focuses on this one particular work item called the tier 1 work item. So these are what each of these cards here or work items represents is an actual person coming through the onboarding process for this company. And so you can see on this board where everybody is, where are they at in the overall workflow. And so how many are in any of these at any given time. So as I open up one of these cards, I see the view screen. And what I want to highlight here is not the fields, but I want to highlight the workflow, which I see the status of this person is training. And I can see different transitions, but I want to see the overall workflow. So we're going to open this up, and let's turn off the transition labels to make it cleaner. There we go. All right, and let me zoom in a little bit more. So this is a workflow in Jira. So every work item has to have a workflow. And the workflow at a really high level is made up of what are called statuses, which are these lozenges you see here. And you have transitions, which are the lines in between the different statuses. So the statuses represent where a particular work item is in the workflow. And the transitions are those various transitions from one status to another. And so we like to say that the statuses are where you're doing the work, and then the transitions are where Atlassian can do a lot of work for you. So through these transitions, you can add validators. So you can make sure that various fields are filled out in order to go from one status to the next. So there's guardrails you can put in place. these transitions also allow for many, many different types of automation. So that, again, was a really key part of this particular solution for this insurance company, is when users were moved from one status to the next, they needed things to be triggered downstream. So for example, if somebody made it so far through the onboarding process, well, they needed to tell IT that you need to get a laptop ready, or you need to get a phone ready for this particular user, because they're almost ready to start talking to customers, and they need that computer. So that's just one example. They also had a transition put in place called request termination. So if somebody didn't quite work out for whatever reason, there was this workflow transition that the people on this team could do to have automations that would then maybe reach out to their HIRS system or whatever it looked like to do these downstream, or basically trigger some work or something, some updates in other systems for when somebody was going to be terminated. So, but ultimately, this workflow is meant to recruit people, to schedule them for onboarding, to train them, to allow them to go through some peer mentoring, and then ultimately be good to go, where they could be that tier 1 agent. But there's also other paths here: withdraw, no-show, or terminated. So again, accounting for all the different possibilities of what it looks like to onboard a new tier 1 agent. So that's one example of a workflow for that tier 1 agent. But just to highlight again the customization within Jira, this particular project also has another work item and allows for the onboarding of tier 2 agents. So there's another work item called the tier 2 work item. And so this is just highlighting a whole different set of users that are becoming tier 2 agents. And if we click into one of them and look at this workflow, you'll see very quickly that it has a few more statuses, because again, tier 2 agents need to go through some more checks, some more certification, more training, because it's a higher level of expertise. So again, some similar statuses here, but ultimately then you get into testing, passing tests, being certified, some advanced training. And you can see here, workflows can have a lot of different paths from one status to another. So these can be very, very customized. But again, the idea here was they were getting out of spreadsheets. They were coming into a project like this where instead of spreadsheets, they had these work items that allowed for visualization, allowed for a workflow, allowed for a lot of guardrails and a lot of automation with other systems. And it ultimately helped to meet the compliance for their industry as well. So hopefully this gives you a sense of, wow, Jira could potentially be used for my team's onboarding process. So hopefully that is helpful for you. All right, we've got 2 more examples to go. All right, the next one is going to take us into a Atlassian product we haven't looked at yet, Jira Service Management. So service desks. So I think when you first hear service desks, you probably think of IT, or something's wrong with my computer, right? Or I don't have access to this particular tool in my company, things like that. So absolutely, service desks can be used for IT. It's probably one of the prominent ways they are used, but service desks really do apply to all teams. So any team you can think of, your own team and other teams in your company could be considered service teams. So things like legal or marketing, they are often fielding questions, maybe from customers, outside customers, but often internal customers. So even here at Valiantys, we have a legal department, and sometimes we need help from them. So we have a whole service desk set up where we submit tickets to that legal department, and one of the lawyers will read through contracts or whatever we're asking them to do. And it's filed as a ticket that they can interact with us as if, and we're internal, but we are their customer. So this really can apply to any type of team within your company. And so the problems we see ultimately with any team handling work items or intake, if you will, is there's all sorts of different channels for intake to a given team, right? It could be an email to one of the people. The boss comes around and says, hey, I heard this from higher up that we need to do this. It could be a doorway conversation, a phone call. So lots of different ways that work could potentially come to you and your team. And often when that happens, then there's no clear prioritization. Like, work's coming in, well, what are we supposed to work on first? And again, who's working on that? Is that me? Is that somebody else? So again, despite your best efforts to organize your team, again, you just have a lot of chaos and services and maybe the customers asking, hey, what's the update on this? Like, when am I going to hear from it? And you get phone calls all day asking for updates. So again, lots of potential pain points with handling requests. So the solution, again, at a high level, are service desks. In this case, service desk projects that have a clear intake form, that have prioritized queues of what I should work on next, that have automatic updates to the person submitting the request, that also have self-help knowledge articles. So maybe you can put those articles out there that would hopefully even deflect the need for a service desk ticket to be submitted. So we're going to look here at Jira Service Management and a little bit of touch point into Confluence as well. So we're going to come back over into our demo. And for this, I'm going to start off with the Jira Service Management Help Center. So the one there's lots and lots of different features that come with Jira Service Management compared to Jira. And one of these main things is you get this Help Center. So you get this way for customers to come in. They might not have access, right, to come into Jira. They might not be an internal, employee, but you can put this Help Center up there that can be public facing, or this could be for your own internal customers. But either way, you have a Help Center that people can type in things initially, and this is going to look out across Jira. In this case, we also have our Jira Service Desk connected with a Confluence site. And so there's all these Confluence pages out there that Jira Service Management can go and look through to try to help answer questions. So there's some searching and some nice setting up or nice integration with Confluence. And as I scroll down, I can also see different portals. So I can see different service desks available. Each of these service desks represents a separate service desk project within Jira Service Management. So there's a couple out here. I want to focus on the HR service desk. Again, kind of highlight how you could build out a service desk for your HR team. But again, this could apply to marketing, legal, any type of team you have in your company. So the service desk portal here allows for different request types. So this is very, very customizable. And you can see here, in this case, there's 6 different possibilities, different ways that the HR is setting up, like really kind of channeling their intake, being really specific about what type of services they offer and can help with. So for this one, let's look at the employee onboarding option. When I click here, I come to a form that, again, can be very customized for exactly what you want this particular intake to look like. So you can control all the different fields. You can control what types they are, the layout of this form. So very customizable. And yeah, this is certainly a little bit more interesting than this other one I'm going to show, but just gives you a sense of how customized these can be. Okay. When I come back to the service desk, let's look at what it means to actually submit this and what it looks like to be on the customer vantage point. So let's just do this simple request type of asking a question. So how do I change my address? So again, JSM is looking over in Confluence to see if there's any articles that apply to this ask, and it thinks it found one that it has suggested. And I could click this and it would open up a Confluence article here. I'm not going to do that, but it could potentially deflect this submission. But let's say, no, this one doesn't quite answer my question. I need to change my address on file. Okay, so you can add in a description, and then these are both required. I've done all my required fields, and I click send. So this is then submitting this ticket into the JSM project. So this is created what we'll call a ticket. And so this is available now. Me as the customer, I see this, and I might have many tickets open here, but this is what I'm seeing now. So I can see what I've requested, all the fields I filled out. I can see the status that it's in. I can turn notifications on and off, like will I get an email update every time this is updated or not? And I can even, this isn't turned on, but you can also potentially share this request with other people that you want to also have visibility. But here, this is where I can say, I forgot to share my address. So you can add in new activity here, new comments. And this is also then is how the agents on the other side who are handling these tickets, they can then communicate back to the customers via comments. And they can also change statuses, which would reflect out here. And again, any updates that they make would be reflected back to you via an email. So you'll always be able to come out here. You'll always get the latest update on what's happening. You can also communicate with that team out here as well. And again, it's all being tracked. The history is all being kept. So it's really, really great, straightforward. And so this is what the customers would see. And then the agents, let me click on one of these because I'll put on my agent hat. So when I click on this, now I come into the actual behind the scenes Jira Service Management project here, and I can see what this particular ticket looks like, the view screen here, and where I can see the information. I can update the status or the workflow here. I can add comments where I can add an internal note, or I can potentially even add a note back to the customer for this. And so can see a lot of information out here. Doesn't look like I have all the things turned on here because I think some of my licensing on this site has been updated. So I don't see all what an agent might see. But the idea here is I can then interact with that customer here. I can also see queues, which I can't show here right now, but there are queues that basically are a filter of all the different types of requests that are coming in and who's responsible for those. And there's a lot of ability to use automation within Jira Service Management to auto-assign tickets to people on your team, to move things along, to potentially create other issues or work items in other projects. A lot of room for automation to be used in here. And I'm not getting into it right now, but there's also Atlassian Intelligence that's being turned on and enhanced with all these different Atlassian Cloud products as well to help with a lot of things as well. So again, this was to highlight that service desks can be used for lots of different types of teams, in this case, an HR team. So we're now to our final use case, final example here, and then we'll have some time at the end for Q&A. But this final example is centralized knowledge. So again, who is this for? Well, it's for everyone, okay? Every type of team, every type of company has knowledge that they need to document for themselves, potentially share with their customers, but you ultimately have a lot of knowledge that you're building up over time. And so some of the problems and pain points that we see is, where do I find this information? Is that information up to date? Where's the latest and greatest information? So again, that's a huge pain point. Every company has it. We have it even internally here at Valiantys, how to make sure that we can get to information very easily. So the solution, again, at a very high level, is a central organized portal for that knowledge. And we are going to show you Confluence, how Confluence could achieve and help with those pain points. So back to our demo site. And in this case, I'm going to jump back into Confluence. I'm going to stay in this marketing space. We already looked at a few of the pages here, but I'm going to jump in and just look at different ways that Confluence can be really, really helpful. In this case, you're potentially looking up some things that the marketing team's working on. So you come to this marketing space and you can learn about the marketing team here on this main team homepage. What are they about? What are the latest updates on the pages in their space? Different external links, like where to find us. So these, again, Confluence doesn't just point to other Confluence pages. You can add all sorts of different external links out here as well to these different places. You can meet the team, learn more about them. I touched on the team calendars for Confluence. This macro can be put in here if you have Confluence Premium or higher. And again, great, really quick way for your team members to add events, for you to keep up with each other very quickly here. And even outside users can come in and see this. And then there's a frequently used resource area. This could be for the team themselves, could also be for other people that need help from their team. But this, again, is highlighting potentially other Confluence pages, but it could be pointing you to other tools that the team is using. So the idea here is that Confluence may not be the ultimate repository of all the information, but it is your initial place to come to where you can quickly be directed to exactly where to go. So it's like this signposts in like the middle of a desert, like, hey, go here for this information about our brochures, go here for our logos, go here for swag. Otherwise, you might not have known, swag or logos could be off in some other tool. That this will quickly point you to that and get you there. So some really great use cases for Confluence here. So that's the team page. And then one other cool thing about Confluence Cloud is there's a lot of what are called smart links, or essentially like quick integrations to other products out in the cloud that aren't even necessarily Atlassian products. So here, the team has a new product plan page, and this has a smart link over to a Miro board. So the team can come out here, users can come out here and quickly see the real-time updates on this marketing demo board over in Miro. And if a user happened to be able to have that license to go into Miro, they could come in here and they could make updates in line within Confluence and not have that context switching to other tools. So that's one example of a smart link to another product. We'll come out here to show you another example of this. So this is the marketing team's working on a trade show in Vegas this year. And instead of using Jira to capture the work items, they're using another Atlassian product called Trello, which is great for your personal board. Again, this kind of looks like some of the boards I've shown you within Jira, but this is very easy to manage, where you can set up different columns for your different statuses of work, and then quickly create different cards out here. So this is the team. The team has this Trello board, and I don't have to jump into Trello to access this. I can just work on this in line, and I can move. Maybe the ship exhibit is gone from to do to in progress, and I can move it here, and it's going to update out in Trello. So real-time updates that you can see here, and you can dynamically use. Again, your team can just stay in Confluence for a lot of this. Another way integration is with Google, the Google Drive. So this team also happens to use Google for a lot of their information. So they've got their ad pricing in a sheet over in Google Drive, and they put a link in here, and they can access this and see it in real time, in line in Confluence. Here's a Google Doc, again, that's in line in Confluence. So there's that. And then Confluence itself also has some new features that are rolling out, like a Confluence database. So this is set up with some integrations over to Jira to pull in Jira work items and to show some of the fields here within Confluence. And lastly, there is something called a Confluence board or whiteboard. So this is just one example of that, but this is a newer feature that I'm enjoying using with some of my clients. So you can create a board out here in a given space, and you can work with it again. It's similar to other board products like Miro. So you can use this, and it also has integrations within Confluence and also integrations into Jira, where you can create Jira issues from these boards. You can bring in Jira issues from these boards to do things like PI planning or requirements mapping. So a lot of cool things that are coming here within Confluence Cloud. So hopefully you see the value of Confluence to be that place for your knowledge management and centralized repository. All right, that is the end of our examples. So now's the time for Q&A. I'm going to go take a moment here to look at our Q&A area. And while I'm doing that, I'm also just going to scroll down here within this, this presentation that you can look at while I'm reading some of these questions. But just to highlight again that you can reach out to me on LinkedIn or via email. I think Kristen's also putting in some of those that information in the chat. And we also have a lot of classes coming up and webinars coming up. So here's a screenshot of some of those things coming up here in February and March. Things like boot camps that are public. And a lot of these do have costs. Some of them are webinars that are free, but we'd love to talk with you about these as well. So I'll just leave this up and check out our Q&A. All right, so one of the questions here is, do you offer training on the tools you showed today? So yeah, I kind of touched on it already, but yes, we do training for any of the Atlassian products that we touch on here, and some of the ones we don't touch on, like Jira Align and Compass and Rovo. So we absolutely can help with any training. Again, we do have these public offerings out here that could be anywhere from 1 day to 2 days to 3 days. And there's public offerings, there is a cost at that. And so you can see that on the Valiantys website. But we also have webinars as well. And everything that we do for our webinars, like this one here, we record and we put it out on our YouTube channel as well. So we have a ton of videos on YouTube that I highly recommend you go to. And you can look those up for all sorts of different Atlassian products and use cases out there as well. So yes, lots of training opportunities. And then let's see here. So, okay, so here's one other question. Can you tell me about the Atlassian projects and goals a little bit more? So I know we only have a few more minutes here, but let me just jump in back into our demo site. And again, this is something that's rolling out more and more. It was originally called Atlas. Again, it's kind of being built more into the Atlassian home area, which if you come out here to this little grid icon in the upper right in the cloud or the upper left, you can see which products, Atlassian products you have underneath your organization. So our demo site has a lot of them, but under the Atlassian home, or this is saying Atlassian start, you can get to these, and sometimes you might need to ask Atlassian to turn it on to check it out, because they're still kind of rolling it out and working on it. But the idea here is that there's the ability to create new projects that, again, are things that you can sign up for, you can follow, you can give real life updates out here. You can give real life updates. You can also turn on things like risks or decisions. But the idea, again, is that you can give updates. It's almost like kind of like social media, where you can give updates out here that people can follow, and you can update, is it on your statuses? When is it due? Things like that. You can also create things like goals, which I didn't talk about earlier. But the idea here is you can have goals, and you can even have sub goals for those goals that are your objectives. You can set up different metrics or key results here, and you can follow those goals, and you can link these goals to Jira work items. So you can link them to epics, you can link them to other work items, and you can even highlight those in visualizations within Jira that this work item meets like these 3 goals. So that's coming in here more and more. there's a lot more emphasis on those objectives and goals within Jira. And then teams are out here as well. Teams are part of Jira, but you can set up different teams out here, and you can see who's on your teams, and you can pull in teams into different work items and use those and show you which teams are working on different projects and goals. So that's so that's just a really quick glimpse into those projects and goals out here in the Atlassian home area. Okay, well, we are at the end of our time together, but again, thank you for joining this Jira for All Teams webinar, and love for you to reach out to me if you have any other questions or want to talk more about Atlassian. And again, thanks for joining us. Have a great rest of your day.